Hey guys, wanted to go over a couple of guns with you today. One is the Colt Single Action Army. Most people can recognize this from anywhere. You maybe have seen the video that I did on the Ruger New Vaquero that I had. It was a stainless option. It was 45 long Colt, which is what this is, and 45 ACP cylinder. I sold that gun. I've always wanted a Colt. I wanted stainless. However, Colt has never, according to Colt and a couple of other people that I've talked to, they have never made a stainless single action Army. Every one of them is steel, and they are either blued or nickel finished, period. So nickel it was. I bought this used, so it had a little faint turn line on it. What I did not realize, and I'm going to go through several things here, so bear with me. This is my first Colt Single Action Army, and it will be my last. You cannot carry this with 6 rounds safely. If you want to be able to do that and you want to shoot it, quite often, then I would do the Ruger New Vaquero like what I had, or if you just have to have a Colt, Colt makes or used to make what they call the Colt Cowboy. And that has the transfer bar. It does not have the, now this is loaded and I'm going to tell you why, but it does not have the firing pin fixed. Now they call it fixed. It's a floating firing pin, so it's got a little movement in it, but nevertheless, you need to keep this on an empty cylinder. I'm going to show you why right now real quick. So I'm going to pull that. Now that is on a primed bullet. She will go off. So we're going to be very careful here. Now that you just saw, the firing pin on the hammer itself is actually resting on the cartridge. So any bump here and it will fire, okay? So whether it's intentional or unintentional. And you can see the gap that is created between the hammer and the frame, okay? Now, that is telling you because when it's on an empty cylinder, it is flush against that top. So that little gap right there is like your chamber indicator to let you know she could pop with any given stress on the hammer. So you cannot carry this with 6 rounds safely. This needs to rest on an empty chamber. So that's probably what you've read or heard or whatever the case is. Trust me, I've not had a negligent discharge with this particular weapon, but it is very, very possible to have one. So I bought this pistol from GunBroker, D4, those guys out of Nevada. Great guys. Now, of all the guns that I bought on GunBroker, this was the first one and hopefully only one I had an issue with. Just to round that out real quick, D4 was very good in helping me with the repair. So this is what happened, and this is what I want to do. Let me unload this real quick. I know some of you are just freaking out, so I get it. So we're going to unload all these. So I've got 5 rounds, and everything is empty. So I'm going to show you. So you see the gap now? Can you see it? If it'll focus. Come on. Focus on the gun, not me. Anyway, right there, there's no gap, if you can see that. I'm sorry. I don't have my camera guy with me today. Okay, trust me, there's not a gap there. Now, on a revolver, I've learned through the Vaquero as well as the Colt, the movement forward and back of the cylinder, okay, can give you an idea of how well it was fitted together, how often it's been shot, all of that sort of thing. So what I didn't know is between the cylinder and the barrel, it really doesn't need to be more than, I think, 6 or 7 thousandths, something like that. This one is 5, so that's good. No issue there. However, Colt is known for the 4 clicks, okay? So I'm going to try to let you listen to this as much as you can. So I want you to listen. We'll do that again. Okay, so all of them sound really close to the same now. When I first bought the gun and I first got it and started handling it, that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear the 4 clicks. I wanted to, you know, that sort of thing. Well, the first click, if you will, the first cog in the wheel on the hammer down here at the bottom, okay, is what they call the safety. Do not use that as a safety and think you can get away with that. I'm going to roll some pictures in here later to show you why. Then the second notch, of course, is that allows you to free it up, load it, unload it, all that sort of thing. The third and fourth, whatever that is for. So, the notches on the hammer, on this portion right here, are so small that if you pull the trigger with the first or second click, cog, whatever, then the hammer can fall. I didn't even do that right then. You're supposed to pull it all the way back and then release it. So, the second click where it unlocked it was very faint. I'd never had one of these before, so I didn't know. Whatever. Took it out, shot it 10 times. It shot fantastic, all of that sort of thing. It just continued to bother me. Put it in the safe. I keep it loaded on the dead cylinder. Again, it's not going to go off, being a single action. And so I was going to take it to a Colt guy that's close, that's got a bunch of these, that know more about it, all that. Well, the morning of, I went to unload it, so I tried to go back to the second portion of that, and it would not engage. So the gun was essentially locked up. Finally got it unloaded, called around, talked to a couple of people. So Peacemaker Specialties out of California, fantastic people. They were a wealth of knowledge. Their website is excellent. I'll try to roll that in there as well. And then Mr. Alan Harton in Houston, Texas, which is where I eventually sent it for the repair. Is where he repaired and made a couple of other little small adjustments that I'm going to go over that with you as well. So my point is simply, if you cannot pick this up in person before you buy it and it is not new in the box, I would be very, very skeptical of purchasing it, okay? Or at least ask for some type of a 2 or 3 day handling, you know, that sort of thing, so maybe you can get it to a gunsmith if things don't sound or feel correct, okay? Now, the little portion on the hammer, again, are very shallow, right? And then the sear, what they call the sear that sits on the top of the trigger that engages those, is also, even though it's Colt and they do a fantastic job with their hardening process, it can only take so much abuse. What happened was, and I'll roll these pictures in, but on the bottom of the hammer, the first cog, click, you know, little spur was fine, but the second one had been completely sheared off. Well, that caused the strain on the sear on the top of the trigger, and that sheared that off, and that's what was hung up in there and keeping the gun from functioning. So, I took it apart. Yeah, that was kind of scary. I did not want to scratch it. It's got one little old bitty scratch on it. You know, it's not even bad. You can barely feel it with your fingernail at that. It's just very minor. But I didn't want to add any more. I took it apart. I couldn't stand it. I wanted to see what was inside, what was going on. Took it apart, and then I found the parts that were bad. Okay. Called Mr. Allen. He answered the phone, answered my questions, gave me an idea of what it would cost to repair. I sent it to him. Now, before you send your gun to Mr. Allen, if you decide to do that, send him some money right away, because though he takes checks, it may take a while to get there, as mine did. Okay, so if it's not cash or money order, obviously, I understand, he's going to hold your gun and your money until everything is cleared, and then he's going to ship it back to you, okay? So, just so you know, if you want it back quicker, you need to send him your money on the front end. Send him a little extra he's good for it. He'll give you change and send you your stuff back if you're in a rush. But he had a really quick turnaround time, and it was less expensive than sending it out to California. Obviously, that's going to take at least a week to get there and back, all that. So that's the reason why I sent it to Mr. Allen. Either one, you're not going to be disappointed. Again, fantastic work, fantastic work. So, but one thing that he did is, obviously when he had it apart, I was like, Alan, go ahead, take it apart, do what you think it needs done. So he polished the internals. The trigger is just night and day different, okay? But something that I have never seen or heard of is that screw on the bottom of that front strap, or whatever you want to call it, actually was too long, and he shortened the screw. And if you look, I'd looked at the gun and drooled over it and all that sort of thing, but I had never realized until I saw the invoice where he had shortened it up, and it had actually made a very light mark on the front of the cylinder. So even though it was from Colt and I believe had never been taken apart and goofed with, it had been misused, which obviously caused those parts to break that he rebuilt. But even from the factory, things cannot be exactly right. So if you have one of these guns, it's new in the box, even if you don't plan to shoot it ever, send it out. Have them do their work. It's all internal. You're never going to know. And in the event that you want to shoot it, it'll be correct. It's not going to beat itself to death. He replaced one of the springs in here. It's the way it should have left the factory. Okay, so I wanted to show you that and give you a rundown really quick on the Colt. So it's beautiful. Yes, I really like it. I've shot it. I like it. I'm going to keep it. All of that sort of thing. But this is my last Colt. I will definitely go back to the Ruger New Vaquero if it's something that I really wanted or really want to shoot a lot, or I just feel like I have to have 6 cylinders because I don't know. I have to have 6 cylinders or 6 bullets. Okay. I wanted to go over a couple of other things with you real quick, and that's leather. So I had this belt. I had this made. A real roughneck looking fella, and I hope he watches this video, but his name is Chad. Fantastic guy. Works at the Harley dealer. But he made this belt, lined it. It's absolutely gorgeous. He does fantastic work at very, very reasonable prices. So thankfully, he only does this on the side. Otherwise, he might have to charge more. So I had this originally with the Ruger Vaquero as a cross draw. And I liked it and it was okay, but I wanted a regular right-hand draw this time. So he made me this two-tone option here that you see. He can airbrush, he can do all kinds of fancy crap. However, I want to wear it out cutting wood and doing all the other stuff, which he really likes, that I beat it up a little bit because I actually use it. But he just does fantastic work. Now, not only did he do that for the Colt, but the other pistol, I'm going to go ahead and load this, okay? So don't freak out on me. Here we go. All right, you hear that? So we go 1. You've already seen this. I'm going to skip 1. Okay, and then once I get them all done, I'm going to pull that all the way back and then let that down. And again, that's on the dead cylinder, and you can see that there is 0 gap between the hammer and the frame of the pistol. Okay, so we're going to put that away. And then the other gun that I wanted to show you, much like the Colt, this gun has been around a long time, won the West, whatever the case is, and that is the Winchester Model 1894, affectionately known as the 94 N3030. Now this is a 1956 model, and I'm going to show you a couple of more pieces of leather that Mr. Chad built for me, and that is this beautiful scabbard that he made. And now he embossed that or used the little, I don't know, whatever he makes that with or does that with, but just fantastic. So he made that once. It was perfectly fine. I was just being too picky anyway, so he made me another one. And anyway, and so then he also made this little, what I call a little stock saddle, if you will. I don't have it tied because I don't store the gun with it on there. I don't want it to turn the stock or anything. But just to hold 4 rounds, but just a fantastic little item. Now, when I bought this gun, I'd never seen this before. Some of you old timers might know what that is, but that's a little push pin that it's got a deer head on it. I don't know if you can see that or not. But people, when they would obviously use these guns to hunt, which is what they were made to do, they would have a deer or a bear or elk or whatever the case is. And whatever you killed, you put that in the stock. So it adds to the flair of it. This is an exceptionally clean, all original 1956. And but anyway, so what I wanted to do, now this obviously is just iron sights. I'm not going to put the peep sight and all that jazz on it. But I picked this up and I wanted to carry the little wheel gun when we go out of state. With everything going on and with ATF and as confused as they seem to be, I'm sure that's going to add some confusion with local police departments and all of that sort of stuff. So the last thing I want is to be on vacation somewhere and I've got it loaded down with an AR and Glocks and whatever the case is that I might be traveling with, and I'm hung on the side of the road forever. Whereas somebody can look at an old lever gun, an old wheel gun, and think, this guy's harmless. What's he gonna do? I really like the 30-30 round, so this will shoot 150s, 160s, and 170s. If you can find ammunition, it'll shoot just about anything. I wanted a pre-64, again, just for kicks and giggles. I think whether it's a Marlin, a Winchester, it makes no difference. They all should shoot really, really well. Anyway, so I hope that I'm not going to shoot any targets today, though this 56, I think it was more luck than anything, but at 50 yards, which I know, it's 50 yards, you ought to be able to throw rocks and hit the same hole. Well, not when you're 50 years old and you're looking at these iron sights, as good as they are, I guess, for the age or era. Yeah, 50 yards was about as far as I wanted to stretch it and waste ammo. But anyway, I stacked 2 in the same hole. Again, probably pure luck, which whatever. I'll take luck over being good sometimes. Anyway, all right. One good thing, and these guns are very familiar in the way that the triggers. These have very crisp, no creep, and very little to no over travel. So I look at this as a single action trigger. Now that could be wrong, that's okay, whatever. I'm not trying to argue or start any weird stuff. But they're just very clean triggers. They're done very, very well. Now I'm not going to have anything done to this gun like I did with the Colt. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, I was able at 50 yards to put them very, very close together, and I'm good with that. So before you buy one of these, make sure that there's good pictures, especially if you're buying it off GunBroker, and look at the screws. Has this band been taken off and turned around? And because if you'll look on the opposite side of the ejection, so on the flat side is where your screws should be. Okay, that's where your screws should be. See if the heads have been boogered up at all, that sort of thing. You want to get a gun that hasn't really been goofed with. If it's got a little wear because it's been sitting in, so like this one, for instance, on the barrel band, had a little scuff on it. And I took some cold blue and just touched that up. Nobody cares. But, if it's got little things like that, don't let that deter you from it. It doesn't have to be perfect. If it's got sling swivels on it or whatever. I mean, they're made to shoot. They're made to enjoy. So find you an old lever gun, an old 30-30 lever gun. They're just fantastically balanced. They shoot amazingly well. And a 30-30 round is very devastating on any type of flesh. So you guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, anything of that nature, I'll do my best to post everything down there as far as where I sent the gun, contact information, all of that sort of thing. But if you have other questions, please post them down there, and I'll do everything I can to answer them. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the old stuff. As I get older, I enjoy the old stuff more. So you young whippersnappers out there that are like, I would never say never, because I was the same way. I thought I had to have all the tactical crap, and it fits in there really nice. So you can still get to everything, much like you can with your holster rig. So anyway, thanks, Chad. Appreciate everybody else for watching. Maybe it wasn't too terribly boring, and have a great afternoon. Oh, you can subscribe if you like. If not, it's okay.